Good evening, and welcome to Shadow Gallery. I am, as always, your host, James Donnelly. I question the wisdom of whether or not I should even do this week. This is going to be a very short edition of new comics, bitches! There's a couple reasons for that. Peripheral reason, I didn't go to the comic shop this week as I normally would have on Thursdays. The reason for that being is that on Thursday night, my buddy, Scotty, who you've seen here resting in the background there on the floor, or just kind of casually walking in and out of frame every once in a while. He was very sick, and we had to put him to sleep. So you'll have to forgive me if this has a less than enthusiastic and somewhat dour tone, but it's Monday night. It is time for new comics, bitches. I'm going to talk about, and like I said, I don't even know if I should be doing this tonight, but I'm going to do it regardless and see how it goes. My wife and I have spent basically, good deal of the weekend in the morning, kind of intermittent fits of crying, and seeing him out of the corner of my eye, so on and so forth. It's been very traumatic. Death sucks. Sucks ass. For those of you who read my tweets, gave me some comfort, I appreciate you. Words do mean a lot. So, I have some words for all of you tonight. Hopefully they'll be interesting, and hopefully I'll be able to get my head in the game. I mean, I'm not, kind of like quivering in a ball or anything like that. I mean, that was Thursday, like all day till night on Thursday. So the only 3 books that I was able to read were the ones that my buddy sent me the digital download codes for. They're all Marvel, and they all kind of vary in degrees of how much I like them. What the? So let's start off. So 3 books. Well, the first one that I'll talk about is Iron Man #1. Marvel Now's Iron Man #1. Of course, I mean, I know that the big news of last week, something that a lot of people were upset about, was that Hellblazer is getting canceled with issue 300, and then basically Constantine is moving completely over to the New 52 with the title called Constantine. Hellblazer was a comic that I did, that I've enjoyed, kind of on and off over the years. Particularly, it was on when Garth Ennis was writing it. That was of all the stuff of of Hellblazer that I've read, that was my favorite. I know that who's doing it right now, and it's like the last issue is going to be I think Peter Milligan and Giuseppe Camuncoli, who's doing Spider-Man right now. So it's like that's one issue I don't think I'll even be checking out. I don't know exactly who the creative team behind the new Constantine will be for the New 52, but I'll be interested to see it. I know that next week, my next episode is definitely going to be broken into 2 parts because this week is going to be huge. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things that I didn't get to this week that I might want to talk about next week. So instead of just doing one, because it's easily going to be probably about 2.5 hours. We got a lot of books coming out this week. And I know that like Shadow Man #1 came out this week, which I didn't get to read. The latest issue of The Shadow I haven't read. So I'm sure these are things I'm going to want to go over. And, Swamp Thing, Animal Man, I haven't even read them. So, anyway. Let's talk. Iron Man #1. So this is Kieran Gillen and Greg Land on art. And basically this is, basically what I felt was that they were kind of the whole, big thing was the new suit. I haven't read Iron Man. I haven't read an issue of Iron Man solo in a really long time. I did pick up the like the first, I don't know, 9 or 10 issues of the Fraction LaRocca Invincible Iron Man run, the whatever, the 10 Fears or whatever it's called. I can't remember exactly what that arc was called. And I just kind of lost interest. The first arc was interesting, but then of course I've read Warren Ellis's Extremis arc, which is pretty much where we're kind of working off of now, because we have with this issue we open up with Tony's in a bar. Or no, I mean, we open up with Tony kind of flying around. He's kind of ruminating on, various things and so on and so forth, being faux philosophical. Then he's in a bar, and there's this sexy blonde who's all flirty with him and everything like that, and and then there's Pepper at the bar by herself, apparently the blonde has been is acting like half of her IQ because she knows that it all seems really weird, like this is going to be a setup for something to come in this book, like this blonde is somehow involved in what's going to happen to Tony Stark. Whether or not that's true, it was one of those things, because it's really hard for me to look at Greg Land drawing women, because they all seem to have the same facial expression. And this is something that I've talked about when he was working on Uncanny X-Men, because you had like Storm and you had Psylocke, and it's either like they're grinning this insane grin, or they're screaming this insane scream, or they're just just totally flat, no emotion at all. It's like those are the only 3 emotions that it's kind of like he's kind of like the Kristen Stewart of artists. It's like he only knows like and like highs. Anyway, so of course this gets interrupted by an emergency call from Maya Hansen, who helped to develop the Extremis. Whatever you want to call it, the armor, the Extremis, well, it's not armor per se, but it is, I'm not even sure what Extremis is, to be quite honest. I mean, what exactly it is. but you know, basically, kind of the genie's kind of out of the bottle again. The AIM apparently has some, you know, people that are super souped up on extremists, and so this leads Tony to attend incognito a kind of auction where this apparently one of the leaders of AIM, who apparently just owns a Century 21 jacket because it's got to be yellow, right? He's, you know, kind of auctioning off the extremists' technology so that it can create better human beings. Now, Tony, his incognito self is that he's shaved. He's shaved. He's basically clean shaven now. No mustache, no beard. It's just he's clean shaven. That's it. That's his whole disguise. And it's literally like one of those Clark Kent Superman type of things where it's like, really? You know, it's like the glasses somehow make him, you know, and now that since he's shaved, no one apparently knows what his face looks like without the. But again, I guess at, you know, kind of a first glance, yeah, that would be someone that no one would really pay attention to. But you'd think that AIM would be a tiny bit smarter than this. You know, considering that they're, you know, they have this, you know, this technology, and they have, you know, these souped up super AIM baddies, that they would have better surveillance. You know, I mean, shit. I mean, if you go back to Ruckus Punisher, I mean, the auction that they're having on the boat, that has like facial recognition software. So it was like, it seemed like one of those things like, this should be really important, but no, let's skip to the action. Because, you know, of course, Tony has, and this is admittedly a pretty cool reveal, where he does have this suitcase, he opens it up, and it's just this, like, blob of, like, this kind of silvery liquid, and of course it forms into his armor. So that was kind of neat. And then, you know, he's kind of worked out this, you know, kind of anti-extremist, like, tasers that he's put in his suit. They take out the two super AIM guys, and then he takes the, you know, kind of the ringleader and makes him tell him, you know, kind of how many other subjects are out there. To me, this was just another in Marvel's so far of their examples of how not to do a first issue for Marvel now. Because it was, okay, well, you have to know a lot of information going in to see kind of where they're at, to understand where this book is, where it's come from and where it's going. Now, of course, you know, I can understand also that from an editorial standpoint, that you have to really, you know, because this is, you know, this is the Iron Man #1. It's November. In 6 months, Iron Man 3 is going to be out in the theaters, and that's going to involve the Extremis storyline. So there's got to be some mention of Extremis. So again, you have, you know, like with, you know, with Dan Slott, you know, Spider-Man, the Lizard, that whole thing while the film was out. You know, to me, it felt like, okay, well, this is obviously, you know, I don't think that Dan Slott really wanted to do this story. It just seemed like, okay, well, this is a convenient time to talk about the Lizard, because it will maybe help bring some more readers on board. And I understand, you know, I understand the thought process behind it, but again, this to me, it just seems like they could have taken not a new direction, but just introduced something new. Introduced, or even gone back to, you know, kind of take a Mark Waid approach to say, okay, well, we're going to kind of go back to the beginning, and maybe deal with, you know, someone like the Mandarin, or, you know, some kind of old school villain, as opposed to this tack they've taken. But it's done. Again, it's more of a, I think that that's a smart way to do things, but not always the right way to do things. So I mean, there can be two different things. You can do something smart and you can do something right, and it happens to be smart. But sometimes smart doesn't always equal good. So it, anyway, this was at best a 2.5 out of 5. Again, it was very, very average. I didn't like the land art for the most part, except for some of the more dynamic moments of the book. I didn't, like I said, I didn't particularly care for where this book is going. I won't be picking up issue number 2 because I just don't care. I don't care about what they're planning on doing. To see where when I was reading Iron Man, I was enjoying kind of seeing Pepper kind of step up and, getting her own suit and everything like that. And, I thought that was pretty neat. That's kind of a cool idea. That's definitely a different direction. But this seems to be, okay, well, we're not changing the status quo. We're actually resetting back to the status quo. So that's what this felt like to me. It felt like everything wrong about, all of the directions that they could have taken, they took the wrong way. So, moving along. I haven't written any of this shit down because I kind of reread them all. The latest issue of New Avengers. So we have, again, this kind of, we have Bendis and Carlos Pacheco, and not Gaydos, who was the artist in the last issue, which was great because I love seeing them work together. But we have Carlos Pacheco on this issue. I'm missing Mike Deodato wherever he is, as far as this title is concerned, because he was definitely one of the highlights of reading this book, because his art is so great. Which is not to say that Pacheco is any kind of slouch, but he just doesn't have the same kind of... He doesn't have the same kind of dynamic expressionism that Deodato has. Anyway, so what we have is this kind of, we have this continual kind of bait and switch of whatever this mystical entity is that they're fighting. It seems to be kind of, as we saw in the last issue, we saw it getting passed off from Victoria Hand to Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel's got it for a little while, and then she, basically, Doctor Strange is trying to, he enters into the astral plane and brings, kind of forces Victoria Hand to go with him, excuse me. And she's kind of freaking out, and that's, it's interesting because it is one of those things where it's like, what would it be like to be on the astral plane? It would probably really freak you out. There's, kind of the overzealous cop that's outside who really wants, the Avengers to answer for, whatever's going on with, Victoria Hand, that she's involved in these, these potential murders, or these attacks, I should say, this whole thing about Jennifer Kale, and, it's slowly kind of revealed as, Strange and Victoria are on the astral plane, that Jennifer Kale was kind of, she would be kind of second in line if if Doctor Strange fell, she would become the next Sorcerer Supreme. So, I mean, her existence was very contingent upon, her continuing to live, was very contingent upon her existence kind of remaining secret. So, which is why nobody's ever heard of her. And of course, we still have Luke and Jessica trying to get the fuck away from all of this. And then, of course, all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. Because the, Captain Marvel comes out to talk to the cop, and then sends this, whatever this, this entity into the cop, and he starts to kind of freak out, and he actually puts his gun to his head, screaming about how the Avengers are mentally controlling him. And he blows his own head off. In a particularly poorly created scene. Not that it was particularly graphic in the sense of, it's really bloody or anything like that, but in the sense that this is something that could have so easily been done off panel, and then having the Avengers react to it and all the people around them, the SHIELD agents, so on and so forth, Maria Hill, and then we meet the bad guy, which is Brother Voodoo, the brother of Jericho Drum. And of course, this is the evil Brother Voodoo now. And he's the one that's causing all of this to happen. And he, in the astral plane, kind of squishes Victoria Hand's head, and then he and Strange are duking it out on the astral plane, and then Strange comes back, and lo and behold, Victoria Hand is dead. So he goes off, he escapes, Hill is desperate to lock the place down. Who has the entity now, we're not quite sure. And then, Strange is kind of trying to put as much distance between himself and the Avengers as possible, because he's the only one that can really investigate what's going on. And he has to go talk to some of the other mysticals that are in the Marvel universe. So of course the one that he ends up going to is Damon Hellstrom, and he has a bit of a kind of Mrs. Bates surprise waiting for him, and it's the one thing that I really did enjoy about this issue is that it is one thing to have a team book where all of the characters sound the same. And I've seen that. It's definitely, to me, it's been very present in Jeff Johns' Justice League. They all kind of have the same voice, and they're just kind of, they're not conversationalizing with each other. They're just kind of talking at each other, and he kind of gets some of the voices right, and but more often than not, he just seems to write what he wants to write for these characters. But Bendis has, I think, such a good grasp on all of the characters he's writing for, particularly in New Avengers, that, okay, yes, each character has their own very specific voice, which is why it's always kind of, even when New Avengers has been kind of not so good, it's been more of a joy to read this, because Bendis has such a good handle on these characters and on their voices. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons it's been a lot of fun reading this title, since kind of the whole kind of Dark Reign, with Scar, kind of infiltrating the Dark Avengers and everything like that. I mean, that's one of the things. That's the arc that put me back on this book. Pacheco's art is middling. It's not bad, but again, like I said, that decision to make this kind of this death of the cop who kills himself, it stuck out like a huge sore thumb to me, and it made, because I don't particularly care for watching people's brains being blown out in front of me. And if it's done for dramatic effect, it has to be done in a way that's, the more impactful something can get. Just having, the word bang, across a panel or something like that, and then just cutting to, reaction shots. That would be the way that I would design it. Not, okay, well, here's me, bang, here, watch me die. For sometimes less is more, and that's something that Pacheco, while being a good artist, I don't really know if he's got the hang of it, but I mean, he's worked with some pretty not subtle writers. So, and Bendis, you know, he can sometimes go off on some weird areas. But to watch the mystery, because this is honestly kind of right now where we are with this book, it's kind of the closest thing that we're going to get to seeing a Doctor Strange kind of solo series. Because there's just, even though, you know, Doctor Strange, he's such a cool character, and, you know, I love him to death when he's written really well. When he's written poorly, it's garbage. I just hate Doctor Strange. But when he's written really well, you know, like when Bendis writes him, or Brian K. Vaughan wrote him, then it's a real joy to read. So, you know, this issue was, I would say, probably about a 4 out of 5. I mean, it was really solid. Like I said, there were a couple beats that seemed a little off to me, but I'm really intrigued as to where this is going, what this is going to mean for the new Avengers, when it eventually, you know, kind of gets, you know, redone when Hickman starts it up. But you know, like I said, I'm looking forward to reading more about this tale, which is why, you know, I'm giving it the 4 out of 5, because like I said, I think there are some mistakes they make, but they kind of quickly regroup. But the one book that I did read this week, and it really needs, I don't need to go into a great amount of detail about it, because I'm not really going to, but the one book from Marvel that I did read this week, and honestly, you know, and if I read some of the other books that came out this week, because, you know, Manhattan Projects came out, and like I said, all the books that came out that I haven't read yet, if they're more fun, I will be very surprised. And that was Deadpool #1. I laughed so hard at this book. It was the first time that I literally have ever read a solo Deadpool book that I thought, you know what, this is really fun. It's just kind of, it's so insanely over the top. Because who are our writers? The writers are Jerry Duggan and Brian Posehn, who are both stand-up comics. Brian Posehn, you know, and they're both huge geeks. Obviously, you know, Brian Posehn, if you've ever seen his stuff, he is super geeky, super nerdy. You know, he was on, if you've ever watched the Sarah Silverman show, you know, he's kind of the, you know, the balding guy with the glasses, you know, and just this kind of large, not fat, I mean, not like fat, but I mean, he's, you know, he's just kind of like this mass of nerdiness, and that's, you know, and I'm not a huge fan of his stand-up, but I do admire his sensibilities. I've never seen Jerry Duggan do anything, but I do follow him on Twitter, and he is hilariously funny on Twitter. And because you know, it's like him and like Patton Oswalt and, you know, guys like that. They're, you know, they're kind of like, you know, Patton Oswalt I love. He's my, you know, he's very, 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 very close runner-up to Louis C.K. as far as my favorite stand-ups are concerned. But this, you know, written by, you know, these two geeky comedians and drawn by Tony Moore. And, you know, basically we have, I mean, what is it? I mean, it starts with the divisiveness of the nation, okay? We've got, you know, I mean, there's this one panel where there's this, you know, big redneck, you know, kind of like ready to knock out this, you know, kind of, you know, Rastafarian looking, you know, liberal, and, you know, at the voting booths and everything like that. And it's talking about, you know, how divided the nation is. And, you know, basically we have this guy, this sort of necromancer, who is raising presidents from the dead so that they can, you know, help to take back the country, you know, like the, you know, and Captain America kind of gets involved, you know, and S.H.I.E.L.D., of course, ends up stepping in, and, you know, you know, we have Cap. I can't remember the first one that gets. It's Harry Truman is the first one that this necromancer brings up. And the necromancer is, and he's confronted by Captain America, and you know, basically the necromancer is saying, "I can't really stop this now," and he kind of, you know, and there's this picture on a newspaper headline of Cap using a shield to behead Harry Truman. It's like, you know, Decapitan, you know, Decapitan America, and I mean, it's loaded with puns, and they're not bad puns. They're actually pretty fucking funny. And then once Deadpool, of course, gets involved into it, you know, we have this huge monster that's, you know, this kind of tearing up Manhattan, and you know, here comes, you know, this sword, you know, through this monster's belly, and you know, here comes Deadpool, and you know, you've got, you know, this one guy. It's a chest burster, and it, and it is peppered with all of these little, fucking all of these little, you know, pop culture references, and you know, of course, you know, he is, and there's this one kind of portly SHIELD agent who's kind of like the, you know, should be kind of like, I mean, physically, you know, physicality-wise, she's kind of like Amanda Waller, and you know, she's, you know, some of the people at SHIELD have kind of put their faith in her to help solve this crisis. But of course, it's, you know, and then she ends up turning to Deadpool, and you know, so who's his first fight against? His first fight is against FDR, and he's got, you know, these moments where it's like, I've got a new deal for you, and you know, the only thing to fear is fear. You know, and you know, I mean, just, you know, all this insanity just going on every page, and every page is packed with, you know, all of these, like, you know, with great detail, and just, you know, this, you know, just insanity, just this orchestrated chaos that Duggan and Posehn have put forth, and it is a real joy to read. It is absolutely hilariously funny. It's one of those things where it's like, character, who really cares? Because it's Deadpool. We know that Deadpool is totally out of his mind. And that he is very funny. So it's fun to see him being funny, but you know, it's like, of course, the patter can get tired. Like, you know, in my opinion, you know, I would like to go back and read the Gail Simone Deadpool. This is kind of one of those issues where it's like, okay, this is an example of how fun a Deadpool comic can be. Because I've read Deadpool at other points and just like, oh god, this shtick is so tired, man. Let's work, you know, let's get past the snappy patter, and let's actually give some character. And there is, I mean, like, the supporting characters, like the one SHIELD agent, is pretty well defined. And, you know, just kind of this whole, like I said, the craziness of, you know, all these dead presidents being risen from the grave and everything like that. And, you know, all these moments where, you know, I mean, just Deadpool, I mean, you must be really mad at me. It's really, I mean, the jokes are really good, and this is ultimately, it's also part of being a comedian, is that you write jokes, and that happens to be what these two guys are. They write jokes. They're funny people. So, I mean, when you have funny people writing a funny character, you tend to get a funny comic, and that is what this is. I mean, and Tony Moore's art is terrific. It's great. I loved it. I mean, there wasn't a page of this that I thought, well, that looks wrong, or this looks wrong. No, it's like, yeah, man, all right. I'm digging the art style, because it's like, at some points, it's really like, almost like the cover itself. It's very over the top, like Jeff Darrow-ish kind of, you know, all the spent shells from the machine guns. I mean, it's just, you know, there are like millions of them, just all over the place, and even on the panels themselves. I mean, it's just this massive overkill. And it's really fun, and it's hilariously funny. It's very well drawn, and it's a pretty absorbing read. It makes you really want to read where this is going next. So I mean, I would actually have to give Deadpool #1 5 out of 5. As far as as far as books are concerned from the Marvel Now. This has been my favorite one, because this is one that I definitely want to go back to and revisit and say, yeah, this was really funny. This was I had a great time reading this book, and ultimately that's sometimes just what it's really about, and especially after this week of just kind of emotional, just being kind of ripped in half. I think I just really kind of needed a book like this. So, yeah, that's it, guys. I'm done for this week. That's all I've really got to talk about. I wish I had more. I did get the digital download code for Scarlet Spider, but honestly, I'm letting that go until Minimum Carnage is over, because I have no desire to read anything to do with Minimum Carnage. But like I said, I will be back next week. I'll be more kind of with it. I'm sure that I'll have more interesting things to say, and so on and so forth. And I'll have a lot more books to talk about. Because like I said, there's a lot coming out. I mean, I was going through the list, and there's like 16 or 17 books that are coming out this week that I want to read. So I will read them, and then next week we will talk at length about them. So it'll probably be Monday, Tuesday, next edition for that, because I'm not doing Sunday nights again for a while, until there's like a lull in the TV shows that I want to watch on Sundays, because that's like and. So another thing, of course, that I do, that I did think about before and I wanted to talk about tonight, is that yesterday, of course, was yesterday morning being Sunday morning. I mean, technically I know now it's Tuesday, but Sunday morning was the final episode of Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes. It went out with bang. Would I have preferred maybe a smaller scale thing? That's more kind of like the DC style of doing things. Well, I mean, at least at the end of Justice League Unlimited, the first season. It went for kind of a really small scale story for its kind of finale there. But of course, then the second season, small as it was, had the like the uber battle between the Justice League and Darkseid, and you had the Legion of Doom in there and everything like that. So this was the Avengers, all of them, Avengers and the New Avengers, fighting, and some interesting kind of selections there that they made as far as the New Avengers team was concerned, but kind of fighting Galactus. And it did not go the way that you would have thought it would, even though it had the Fantastic Four in there. Because I mean, if you're doing a Galactus story, you kind of have to put in the Fantastic Four. So I mean, seeing that, it kind of made me wish that they would do a Fantastic Four show with under the auspices of someone like Chris Yost. But of course, we're going to be getting so it was hard to say goodbye to that series because it was so good. I'm really pissed off that in the United States they don't have a full season collection. You can actually get them, but you have to get them from Canada. They do have actually Blu-rays of the entire first season. And I'm hoping that they'll do the same with the second season, because up in Canada, sometimes they get cooler shit than we do. God damn it. I'm sorry, I just felt like I saw Scotty out of the corner of my eye. Anyway, but it was, that was a fantastic show. There were so many more places it could have gone, but now we have to put up with Jeff Loeb's Avengers Assemble. I'm sure I'll see it, and if it's anything like Ultimate Spider-Man, I will not continue to watch it for very long. But to be honest, that's probably the direction it's going to go in. Because I just don't trust Jeff Loeb. Don't trust him at all. I mean, and the weirdest thing about the whole Ultimate Spider-Man thing is that, it's Paul Dini. He's working on, and Bendis is writing some scripts for it. So it's like, but I get it. It's a kid show. It's more kid-friendly show. I mean, when you're doing an animated show, when you're doing, an animated superhero show, make it for everybody. That's really, I think, the best way to approach it, because, yeah, kids are going to watch it regardless. But if the parents or the older siblings or whatever can watch it too and get even maybe more out of it, it's the Pixar way. I mean, that's one of the things you do. You aim for the smartest person in the audience, and if, the fun stuff trickles down to the kids, the bright colors, the action, so on and so forth, then you're doing well. And if you've got this, if you've got the adults engaged too, then you're doing even better, because they'll DVR it, they'll watch it with their kids, and they'll enjoy it, and then they'll go out and they'll buy the shit. Because I have no children, and I don't plan on having any children. So anyway, that's just, I'm tired of being upset about that. I'm tired of being upset, period. I want some happy days. Soon, really soon. I'm hoping to go see Skyfall this weekend. I'm almost guaranteeing that I will. And I'll probably even come on here and talk about that, because it's a Bond film. I mean, it's almost superhero-esque. So I do like to review movies. I do. So. Anyway, okay, so this is really it for this week. Guys, thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry if I'm a little, again, I kind of battled back and forth on whether or not to do this, but, thanks for watching this week's New Comics, bitches! Say what you need to say down there. If this is your first time here, again, be aware, this is not my normal, this is not my normal self, okay? Go back and watch some of the previous episodes, because I think you'll get a better feeling of who I am and the views that I try and do. So, again, so that's it for this week. This is James Donnelly from the Shadow Gallery signing off, reminding you, as always, to stay in the shadows. This one's for you, Scotty.